What's your ADHD Ritalin apples system look like, Mark, if you could call it that?
So, okay, I would divide it up into two kind of classes of work. So for deep work, I would say it's not very different, which is I try to block off X a number of hours, eliminate as many distractions as possible. I used to use software that would block things like social media and, sports websites and stuff like that. I did that for a number of years and it was very helpful, especially when I was writing a bunch of books. These days, I don't do it as much. I'll let myself, if I kind of feel the need to get distracted for a little bit mentally, I'll let myself do that. The biggest difference, so this is where the ADHD comes in. This is what's going to sound crazy to people. And also, I think is a good case study of like how productivity is just very personal, and what works for you may be something that like does not work for any productivity guru out there.
That should be the highlight of the section, actually.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
As we're going through all these details,
absolutely,
that's the highlight of the section.
As somebody with ADHD, my brain kind of has a disproportionate need for novelty. Actually, I wouldn't say need, I would say a disproportionate susceptibility to novelty. Like it gets bored extremely easily and it gets excited by something shiny very quickly and very strongly. What I noticed, and I noticed this as far back as when I was in university, is that to a certain extent, and if it's not deep work, task switching actually works in my favor. I wouldn't call it multitasking because I never do two things at the same time, but I'll give a simple example, which is I had a university lecture that I used to go to, and without fail, I would fall asleep every single time. And I would have to like end up asking my friend for her notes, and I would like scramble and freak out and have to like go read the textbook, 2 days before the exam. And it was a disaster. And then at some point, I don't remember when or how, I started picking up Sudokus and crossword puzzles from the student union, and I would take them to this lecture. And I found that if I like sat there and did Sudokus while the guy was lecturing, not only did I stay awake the entire time, but I paid attention to the entire lecture. Which
makes no sense.
I mean, I know that makes no sense. It makes no sense. I didn't understand this for the longest time. And it's true to this day. So like sometimes when I'm like listening to somebody give a talk, or even if I like pull up a podcast or something, like I can't just sit and listen to a podcast. I have to like open up like a game on my phone. And if I have the game going on my phone, then I can pay attention to the podcast. I know.
Yeah. You are weird, man.
But you know what it is? So this is what I figured out.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to figure this out, but it's not multitasking. I thought it was that for a long time. What it is it's task switching, or it's like, I guess, cognitive switching. Let's go back to the crossword in the college lecture. So I'm in the classroom. I'm listening to the professor lecture. I pay attention, let's say I make it 5-6 minutes, my brain starts getting bored. And as a person with ADHD, when I start to get bored, it's like, I'm really fucking bored. And when I have the Sudoku there, I'm like, cool, switch to the Sudoku. And I start doing the Sudoku. And while I'm doing the Sudoku, I'm like kind of passively listening and hearing him in the background. And then after a few minutes, when he says something interesting, I'm like, oh, that's shiny and new. Hey, look, novelty, go back to the lecture.
Okay.
And so now I'm back in the lecture for another 5 or 6 minutes. And then when the lecture starts to get boring again, I can like use the Sudoku to keep the novelty engine going in my brain so that I never just shut down and go to sleep. And I bring all of this up because I do this every day.
Yeah.
In my actual day-to-day
I've watched you do this, yes.
And as you know, I am strangely somehow extremely productive.
Yeah.
So anything that is not deep work, I will very intentionally do this. Like we took a break between shooting this. We were out in the office. We're talking about this podcast. While we're talking about it, I am looking at the design for podcast covers and fonts for the website, and thinking about feedback that I'm going to give on all that. And I'm doing the exact same thing. So it's like, while you and Jess are talking, as soon as that conversation starts to get boring, I look at the designs and start thinking about the designs. And then as soon as I hear one of you say something interesting, I like stop looking at the designs and I go back to the conversation. And it keeps the novelty engine going in my brain. So anybody listening to this with ADHD, the thing to know is that you have this kind of constant disproportionate craving for novelty, for new stimulus. And if you don't feed your brain that stimulus, you shut down essentially. Like you just lose interest completely and in my case, go to sleep. If you can find productive ways to feed yourself that stimulus, if you can, and in my case, it's kind of task pairing things. So it's like if I have to do something extremely boring, like go through my inbox and clear it out, then I will just pair that with something else I need to do, right? Which is like, I don't know, have a meeting about like a production meeting for the YouTube channel, right? And I'll just kind of casually like flick through the emails while people are talking. And I'm not being rude.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, I am paying attention.
It when it happens, yeah.
I am paying attention, but it helps me get everything done. Because it's like if I just tried to do the email and nothing but the email, it would never get done. I would get bored and I'd start watching YouTube after 10 emails. And if I just did the meeting and I tried to pay attention through the meeting, I would get bored and I would like zone out and probably start watching YouTube videos. So it's
okay
by pairing them together. And so we have not talked about something yet, which you and I think it's like the main thing on this episode that you and I disagree on.
Okay.
And it's probably because of this, which is the active procrastination.
Okay.
So
you want to get into that now? Okay.
Yeah. Why not? This feels like the right moment. So there is something in the research called active procrastination.
Big debate over it, actually.
Yes. Which I personally call, my wife and I, we lovingly call it productive procrastination.
Yes, that's common. Yeah.
Which is essentially this. It's like, let's say you have a big, hairy task that's really intimidating and scary, and so you're putting it off. Well, one way to get it done is to go find an even bigger, hairier task that's even more scary than that one, and then procrastinate by doing the less scary task that you've been putting off, right? So it's like, a simple example is you've been meaning to clean the garage for months, and you just keep putting it off. But then suddenly it's, you need to go buy a new car, and that's terrifying and you're really anxious about it. So you put it off, so it's Saturday, you're supposed to go to the lot, you're supposed to go look at the cars. And instead of doing that, you decide, you know what, it's time to clean the garage.
Okay.
And so you spend the entire Saturday cleaning the garage. Now, on the one hand, you just put off a really important task. On the other hand, you finally clean the damn garage. And as somebody with ADHD, I feel like my entire life is this. It's just like finding here's the task I'm supposed to do. Here's my level of intimidation with it. What is something I can find that is more or less intimidating than this to either do instead or to force me to do this, right? And it's just like this constant negotiation with my own brain. Like you, I do have a to-do list. I don't time box because, as you can imagine, my life is chaos and the time boxes are completely useless.
If you're going to be task switching, that's useless.
It's not just that, but it's also like given my role in the business, my days are crazy.
Yes.
There's so much unexpected stuff that happens throughout the day. So time boxing just goes out the window. But I do to-do lists and task lists, and I'm actually quite religious about it because I think it's the only thing that keeps me tethered and streamlined, because otherwise I just forget stuff. But outside of that, I don't do a whole lot else. The other thing that I do that is strange about me, that's different, the conventional wisdom is always knock out the most difficult task of the day first. It goes all the way back to Ben Franklin. There was a best-selling book in the 80s called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. Which was basically, it's one of those books that should have been a blog post. The entire book is just do the most important thing, eat the frog first thing in the morning, and then you like you said, it feels like a win for the rest of the day. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I
need some warm up or?
Yeah, it feels like my brain needs warm up. Okay. So I usually actually do the least important stuff first thing in the morning. I love mornings. It's funny, my morning routine is literally wake up, grab an energy drink, and sit down at my desk and start working within 100 seconds of waking up.
Oh, wow.
So it's...
wow, really?
Yeah, I don't do anything. I don't stretch. I don't meditate. I don't walk. I literally wake up, walk to my desk, start working.
Okay.
But I need to start with low impact work. So it's usually first thing in the morning is email. And then I catch up on Slack messages. And then usually by then it's been like 30, 40 minutes. And my brain's like functioning and I can start kind of doing creative stuff. And then and if anything is kind of intensive and creative and I need to like dedicate more than a couple hours to it, then I'll like do the deep work thing where I'm like, okay, close all the windows, close all the tabs, put the phone on the other side of the room. And like, now we're locked in, we're writing a script or we're writing an email or whatever. But that's kind of it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Well, okay. What it sounds like is you have figured out a way to leverage your impulsivity.
Yes.
Which I think is probably useful for people, even if they don't have ADHD, if they're just an impulsive person. And I consider myself to be impulsive at times too. And I've heard you talk about that before, where your task switching, cognitive switching, whatever. And I've experimented with it in recent weeks as well. And yes, every now and then, like if I am getting bored with something, I'm like, okay, I just need a jolt of novelty, and I don't have ADHD.
Yeah.
So I think that could be useful for a lot of people.
The important thing I think is going back. Like,
yes,
when I talk to ADHD people who are dysfunctional, they do the task switching thing, but then they'll just leave 6 things half completed.
Yes.
And they never go back and complete it. And so like, and this is where the to-do lists come in, that I'm like religious with my to-do list, because it's like, you have to go back.
Okay.
You have to go back.
Well, so that's when you talk about the productive procrastination, I think that's the point where I get a little sticky with it, because it's so easy for me. Like if my house is a disaster, I've been procrastinating putting off, but I got some work task I need to do. I'm like, time to clean the house now. And I'll go do that. And then 2 hours go by and I got a hell of a clean house, but I'm nowhere closer to working on what I want to work on. I think this is one you just have to be very, very careful with.
Yes.
Yeah.
If the task should probably be in the same domain, ideally, right?
I see. I'm usually like, I'm going to do something completely different.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like if I was supposed to prepare for this podcast and instead I like decide to go mow my lawn, like that's useless.
Right. Okay.
Whereas if it's like, I should be preparing for the podcast, but maybe instead what I'll do is I'll like start doing research for the next podcast.
Okay.
Like that's what I try to do, because then it's like, okay, at least that's like adjacent to what I should be working on.
Even emails at that point. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And the idea too, that the importance of coming back to the thing and finishing it. It's like, let's say I start, prepping for this podcast, I get bored halfway through. So I start doing another thing. What I do is I wait for the moment that the initial task starts to feel novel again. It's like, oh yeah, I was prepping for the podcast this morning and now it's 6 hours later and yeah, I should go finish that. That sounds kind of interesting, actually. I was I was at a really interesting place with that. So it's like tricking your brain into finding old things to feel new again.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That does make sense. No, I found the same thing too, because we've been working on this particular episode for so long that
procrastinating.
I would get so bored. I'm just like, oh my God, I cannot with procrastination anymore. I've read these studies or whatever so many times or whatever. And if I just put it away for a week or whatever and came back to it, I'm like, boom, there's all this novelty to it again.
It feels novel again.
Yeah. The big takeaway here, though, is not to get caught up on what we do, because you and I have very different systems. We have, except for the to-do list, I think we have pretty different systems. And I try not to work on too many things at once, where you leverage that in your favor.
I need to work on a lot of things at once. Yeah.
The key takeaway here is just, you can try these things out, figure out what works for you, pick, choose, borrow. That's great.
Yeah.
But this is not going to solve your procrastination problem. This is only after you're self-aware enough, right, of why you procrastinate in the first place, that these things actually will work.
Yeah.
Yeah.